When people think about trust in marriage, they usually think about something big like betrayal. But what we've learned is it's usually something that is much smaller, and most couples don't even realize it. Hey, welcome to episode number 10 of the Late Night Conversation podcast.
Yes.
We're getting right into today's topic and talk, and what is the question we have for each other and for them?
Well, we are going to be defining what trust is in our marriage.
It's a good one.
And so I just have a question, just right off the bat, just a really simple question. When you think about trust in marriage, what does that actually mean to you? Let's talk about that for just a second.
So I
Trust
think,
just seems to be a big one
yeah,
in marriage, and it has to be.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think it's like one of those core, like fundamental elements of the relationship. If you can't trust each other, then what's the point?
Exactly.
I mean, you're not going to spend every waking moment with each other. So some people, just might have a hard time trusting when their spouse leaves for work. They might have a hard time trusting when they're hanging out with a group of friends, and
Right.
they're separated and they're worried. And there's this big idea that trust is only broken through something huge like an affair, infidelity.
Right.
But that's actually not the truth based on our own experience and based on what most people are going to experience. It's really probably most of the time going to be something that we are slowly gaining or slowly losing.
Yeah, I also think that when it comes to the topic of trust in your marriage, I feel like that also you're learning how to trust people even as a kid. And so if you are having trouble, trusting people maybe because of something that had happened to you that made you not want to trust anybody, you can carry that into your marriage, and then before you know it, you're also thinking the same thing about your spouse.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could be true, and other times it's not true.
Yeah.
So it's just also what our own perception and how we've personally dealt with trust over the years of our own life.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
And, I think that there's this one idea that really kind of encapsulates the whole theme of our talk today. And this is what it is. I think trust is really about, can I rely on you emotionally, not just practically?
Yeah.
So the
Exactly.
practical idea of trusting someone in a marriage is you're not going to cheat on me. You're not going to have an affair. You're not
Right.
going to walk out on me.
Right.
But, and we've dealt with this, in some of the previous episodes about being lonely in marriage. And it's usually based on emotional connection, or most of the time the lack of the emotional connection. And also something that we've kind of learned as we've gotten older and as we've been married for coming up on 26 years.
Yes.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks to fresh coffee here
Yes.
locally for the coffee. But what we've learned is, like, trust is something emotionally that you learn to give each other. You open for a guy, it's a whole lot harder to be vulnerable emotionally.
That's right.
But that's where the real trust is built. That's where the real power of the relationship, I think, is found, is not in all the other things that we think. It's not in the sexual, thing. It's not in building a life together and a family. It's really being trustworthy with our emotions.
And I think that with the emotional part of trust, it's more of, do I feel safe with you? Like, do you make me feel safe? Are my emotions, are my feelings safe? Are my thoughts safe, with you as well? And that all just goes into, your emotional makeup and stuff like that. It's like, can I trust you with my feelings? Can I trust you with,
And your feelings are tied to your experiences, like you were saying. Sometimes some of the hardest things to actually open up about and be vulnerable about is things from the past, things from maybe our childhood,
That's
things
right.
that no one knows.
That's right.
That as you build trust in your relationship, it really deepens the connection that you have, and it deepens the love you have for one another. And like you said, when you were talking about that, I was thinking about that kind of a cheesy terminology. You're my safe place.
Right. Yeah.
And as cheesy
But
that
that's
might
very
sound,
true. Yeah.
that's what we're supposed to be for each other.
Yeah. But I think oftentimes something that breaks trust slowly over time is when we were talking about just now about emotional and being emotional safe
Yeah.
with one another. If, like, from a woman's perspective, if I am vulnerable in this moment, is it going to be turned around on me later? You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like, can I trust you with the things that I say, you know, and in my vulnerability? What is that going to look like after conversations later, you know,
And
days later, weeks later, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, is that going to be brought up and thrown in my face? Or, you know what I'm saying?
I think it happens both ways for guys.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point because, I mean, being emotionally vulnerable is the ultimate act of trust.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying is it's like, can I trust you with how I really feel?
Right.
No matter what it is, because we all know that we don't live and, walk by our feelings. They exist. We have them. God gave them to us. They're very real.
But
They're very
women are
powerful.
naturally more emotional.
Yeah.
They're more in tune with their feelings, and so
So if you're
Yeah.
crying about something,
yeah,
then my job is not to tell you stop being a crybaby or why do you always cry. It's let you cry, be the shoulder
right,
that you can cry on, knowing this is just vulnerability. This is just getting things out. It's trusting each other with the deepest parts of
so
who we are.
from a husband's perspective, what do you think would be a way that you would break, that would break trust for you slowly in a marriage?
I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's the same thing. I think you brought it up first because women are the ones being more emotionally open and vulnerable. For a guy, we're not, because that's our greatest fear, I think.
Yeah.
Is if I show
Being
her
vulnerable.
this, if I tell her this, if I'm open like this, what is she going to think about me? Like, guys, we're supposed to be strong.
Yeah.
Well, vulnerability is the ultimate letting down of your strength and
Right.
saying, well, this is how I really feel, And again, I think it's the responsibility of both of us to understand that in this moment, it's not the time to, say, well, maybe we need to go to a therapist, or maybe, something's wrong with you. You need some psychological help or medication or something. I mean, and if that's the case, then yes, but
Yeah.
we're just talking about being open and honest to the degree that we trust each other with the things that we don't trust other people with.
That's right.
And
that
not having it, like you said, not having it used against you. Don't, because see, that's the trust being lost.
right.
Especially for a guy. Listen, ladies, if a guy opens up to you, like, melt over that, because that's something that's hard for him to do.
Yeah.
It's really hard for him to do. But do not, for the love of God, weaponize it, because he will close right back down.
Right.
Just take it all in.
Yeah.
Store it in your heart.
Because I feel like most men think, well, that's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
If I open up in this way, even if it's to my wife, that is a sign of weakness. But from a wife's perspective, I think it's like, wow.
Sign of
like,
strength?
It's a sign of strength of like,
Yeah.
and that he trusts me in
Yeah.
this way,
Yeah.
that he would, open up to me in that way.
Yeah.
But also, that's just kind of like a main big thing, like the emotional depth of trust being lost. But then what about the small things, the inconsistent things that happen over time in a marriage? And maybe you think that, oh, it's not that big of a deal for real, but like, communicating that, oh, I'll be home at this certain time, and then maybe you don't,
Yeah.
and maybe it's 30 minutes later, an hour later,
Yeah.
and even that, not being consistent and staying true to
Right.
your word, I think also breaks trust
Yeah.
slowly over time.
Yeah, and I think okay, so from a guy's perspective, my own personality isn't really, bent this way. But for a guy, and I've always been one to where I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna work as hard as I can while I'm at work. But when it's time to come home, I'm coming home. I mean, unless I'm wrong, you've never had to worry about,
No,
is he
yeah.
going to be working late or whatever? I mean, if I'm working late, it's just some wild, crazy thing that happened, and she knows it. But for a lot of guys, they don't see the trust that is being broken in things like that. I'll be home at 6 and you're home at 8.
Right.
Well, if you're going to be home at 8, tell her I'm going to be
Communicate
home
that.
at 8.
Yes.
Because that's those areas where it's just small things. And if that happens every single day or every single week, there's an issue that is being built. Because remember, trust is there's a saying, right?
Right.
Trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets.
That's right. Yeah.
The bucket time that it's lost is infidelity. But it's also lost in drops, right? I mean, because the reality of most couples is it's being earned or lost in drops.
That's
It's
right.
small things over and over again, every single day, every single week, every single month, where we just have to say, this is what I committed to do. This is what I said I was going to do. I'm going to be a person, a man of my word, and stick to it. And when you follow through, that's a lesson in life in general, in anything, marriage, business, leadership, parenting, I mean,
Yeah.
anything. Follow through.
Follow
When
through.
you follow through on what you said, that is trust being earned. That's trust being strengthened.
Yes.
And that's something that, I think we just have to just commit to.
That's right. Yes, exactly.
It has to be a commitment.
And then also, what about when we do get to share with one another? What about, like, the response after sharing? Okay, so, like, maybe something is communicated,
Yeah.
we talk about something, and then your response is very dismissive or brushing off, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that also can break trust so slowly. Because if I already know you're going to respond that way, I'm not going to want to,
You're not even going to share.
I'm not even going to want to share. So I'll just keep that to myself, for the most part. But then if you keep it to yourself, then distance is created.
Yep.
So
builds.
it just builds over time. These are things we're talking about. These are things that over time slowly begin to break trust down
Yeah.
in a marriage. And so when we're talking about sharing, we're talking about being vulnerable, we're talking about staying committed to our word. Well, what is the response, the reactions that we get? Because your body language speaks volumes as
Right.
well. So, like, are you being dismissive? Are you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that sort of thing too.
Yeah, and I think, again, the male-female dynamic most of the time is going to look like this. The man is probably going to tell his wife, you're making a big deal out of something you shouldn't make. You're
Right.
overthinking.
You're overthinking.
Just stop doing that. And
Yes.
although there could be some truth to that,
Yeah.
like in that moment, they're just sharing something with you. And I said something this past weekend at church, that people are not a problem for us to fix. And so oftentimes I think in our relationship, when we're sharing like that, the other person's like, okay, well, I got to fix it. Well, let me.
Right.
No, they just open your ears up, close your mouth.
Right.
That's all we're looking for.
They just need a sounding board.
Yes.
Oftentimes they just need a listening ear, someone who's willing to just
And talk them through it.
Take time for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, instead of just like listening and like, okay, well, they just dumped this, thing on me that happened to them today and they're overthinking it. Okay. So if you really think they're overthinking it, talk them through how you think they're overthinking it.
Right.
And then they might come to the realization, you know what, honey, I think I was just overthinking it.
Yeah, and I really think this works really well in our own marriage and our own dynamic because I, by nature, am an overthinker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an overanalyzer. I just tend to think, my makeup is tend to think, okay, what's the worst case
Right.
scenario,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so that's not good sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but also, when I express those things to you, what you've done so well is be that listening ear and that sounding board, and a lot of times you talk it out with me, and that's all I need
Mm-hmm.
most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just being able to, like I said, being able to trust your spouse with whatever is, on your mind, or I mean, it could just be also the events of the day, it doesn't have to be anything real deep. It just, what is our,
But if
makeup
you,
when we're, yeah.
no,
What
but
is our reaction
right,
when we're speaking?
but if our reaction is dismissive just to the events of the day
Mm-hmm.
that are generally minute, minuscule, aren't going to change the direction or
You're
trajectory of
saying,
our
like, I
marriage.
don't care.
That's all. You're
Yeah.
just instead of and I mean, if we were going to have one topic for every episode of every podcast we are ever going to do, it would be what? Communication. That's the number one problem. I mean,
That
I don't
is.
care how you look at it. I don't care what you call
Everything
it.
stems from
Communication.
communication in a marriage. Everything.
That's right.
Everything.
Most trust isn't broken in a moment. It's worn down over time by doing these things, being inconsistent, being dismissive, small dishonesty, not infidelity, just small little stupid things where we've been dishonest, hiding purchases or things like that. And so we've got to understand that even though trust is broken down slowly over time, it's also built up slowly over time.
That's right.
And so let's talk about how we can build trust up over time. So these are just small things.
Well, first off, you can commit. And when you say something that you're going to do something, you can actually commit to actually saying and doing that.
Yeah.
So keeping your word. I think that is a big one in marriage. If you say, like you said earlier, we were talking about getting home or whatever, if this is what time you're going to get home, then get home at that time. And if not, then have a conversation about it.
And you know what I've learned about us in that? So my wife, I know this, you got to know your spouse, right? So sometimes the generalized roles of a man and a woman are reversed. Maybe the man's more emotional. It's going to be more rare, but that is a possibility, and maybe so my wife is more of a traditional woman. Full emotion. I mean, full emotion. But that's what I loved about it. That's what I fell in love with.
Yeah.
Someone that was just full of the emotion and the passion of life and all that comes with it. And so what I learned is, and she also loves being with me.
I do.
Like, I mean, if I gave you a choice of doing everything with me or doing half of life with me, you would pick everything, no matter what everything was.
Absolutely.
This woman has painted houses with me,
Yeah.
tore stuff out with me, ministry.
Yeah.
I mean, everything, raising the kids, doing the podcast, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
You've always loved doing it with me, and I love that about you. And what I learned was early on, I felt like I couldn't do anything without you because I knew that part about you. But what I learned is she's perfectly fine with me doing things on my own.
That's right.
So long as I tell her, hey,
as long as it's communicated.
I'm planning on doing this on this day with this person.
And a lot of the reason why that is for me is because I'm a planner by nature. So I like to have my week planned. I like to have my days planned. I like to have my hours planned. If it's possible, I like to have a plan of what I'm doing way before I'm actually doing it. I'm not good at fly by the night, type of person. I can adjust and I will change if I have to. That's not the problem. My natural makeup is just to be, a person that plans. So the reason why I like to know all of that stuff is because maybe there's some things that I could use that time in, to get things done that I need to get done.
Right.
And so it's not to micromanage, because after 25, 26 years, I think you're comfortable enough to be without each other for a while. And that's fine.
Hey, but here's the thing I love about us.
Yeah.
Yet we continually decide and desire and want to be together.
Yes, of course. Of course.
That's what I think is unique.
But we're
about us.
also okay.
We're okay with being apart. But I love being with you too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I found out is I love being with you and doing life with you just as much as you do with me.
Well, I appreciate that.
Emotional responsiveness. Here's another thing we can do to gain trust little at a time. When your spouse shares something, like we said earlier, don't brush it off. Lean into it.
Yes.
Be inquisitive.
Yes.
Like, ask questions.
Ask questions.
Why do you feel that way? You might get to the bottom of something that you both realize, wow, man, check this out. You had something you shared. I asked one question, and we discovered this whole new thing about each other or about one another, that we never knew before, all because we didn't just brush it off or, do the whole man or woman thing. Well, that's just a guy being a guy, or that's just a girl being a girl. We actually leaned in.
Yeah.
We actually were part of the conversation.
And I think that also speaks volumes of you care about the things I care about. You are interested in what interests me, and vice versa. And so I think that in itself, over time, starts to build trust with each other.
Yep.
But being predictable in a good way, knowing that hands down, no matter what, you're going to show up. You're going to be there. You're going to be available.
Yeah.
Same for me. You're going to know that no matter what, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to show up in a good way. Like I'm going to be there. So being predictable for each other in a good way is what also builds trust over time.
And in a lot of marriages, we're really good at doing that for our kids, but bad at doing that for our spouse. Take that same energy that we have towards our children.
Yeah.
You don't want to abandon them. You don't want them to, feel like you weren't there to support them. Do that same thing for your spouse. That's the reason you have those children.
Yeah.
Is because you have the spouse. Okay.
A lot of times, I'll just segue real quick. But for us in our own marriage, one thing that I've, really loved is sometimes I'll have a women's event or some type of big event here at the church. And after we're done, I'll let you know, hey, we're done. And then you'll pop up and come and help me tear down tables and put the chairs back up, and without me even asking. So it's just being there for one another in a good way,
Right.
And so that helps me. And then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's working together, really. It's
When
working
two
together.
people work together, they get more work done.
Yes.
Here's another one. This is huge. Owning your mistakes quickly. And this is hard for people in general. I think it's just hard for people in general. But in a relationship, it's a must. It's a must that will build trust. And when we get into, areas where someone's made a mistake, that means there's probably some tension, and that dividing line starts to grow. The distance between us starts to grow, and a minute becomes an hour, and an hour becomes a day, and a day becomes a week, and a week becomes a month, and a month becomes a year. And then after a year, we're like, how did we get here? Well, we got there because we weren't a big boy and a big girl, and we didn't own our mistakes. And that is hard for anyone. And, when the emotions are high, it's even harder because you're fighting against each other instead of for each other.
That's right.
And so owning your mistakes is huge. It's huge in general in life, but it is a must in marriage, and it helps to build that trust over and over again. I mean, I can think back to probably a month ago or so where, I don't remember what it was, but I know I had upset you, and, I wasn't quick to own my mistake. And we had the conversation probably after a day. We usually don't get past a day. It's too much. It's just, and then you're like, why were we mad at each other? Yeah, I mean, it's just, come on.
Too much energy to be mad at each other.
It takes more energy to be mad than to be happy. So, and then what happened was, I remember this. I did the same thing within that week. And I realized I just did what I had done before.
Yeah.
That I took a day to apologize.
Right.
I recognized that, and I waited till we were alone because we were with some people, and I said, I'm sorry. I realized I did it again.
Yeah. And that's okay, because at that moment, it means a lot to me that what I had communicated prior, you actually took to heart, listened, but then took my, perspective and consideration. And so it meant volumes. It spoke volumes to me. So, yeah, and that's just how we work together. But also, one other thing is be that safe place for your spouse.
Yeah, so important.
Be that safe place. Allow them to be honest. Allow them to be vulnerable. Allow them to be imperfect, because we're not perfect people. And so when you're allowing that, safe place for your spouse, that trust will begin to build as well. Can they trust you? And yeah, I think that speaks volumes.
And just not having to have the answers or the correction. Maybe they're mad in a moment, like, we're going to get upset. We're going to get angry. You don't have to be, the Bible verse beating over their head. Be angry and sin not.
Yeah.
I mean, just listen and just hear their heart, hear their hurt, hear their pain, and be like, I understand that. And then, hey, that just helps us to work on things. It helps us to be able to, improve on, and maybe it's something we do need to work on. Maybe it's not. Regardless, be the safe place for your spouse. Safe
and
to
one
share.
thing we've
Safe to be
learned,
honest.
I think, and we've learned really well, is how to be faithful. Let's just be faithful to each other. We are two imperfect people, on this journey together. So let's be faithful to each other, and let's allow each other to make honest mistakes and, come back together. But no perfection, just faithfulness. So that's one thing we've learned really well over the last 26 years.
Yep. And one thing we want you to do, we want to give you something that you can take away from this episode and put it into practice. And here it is. Do one thing this week that you said you would do.
Yes.
And do it well. Do it to the best of your ability. Our time is up. I don't know if the mics caught that, but our time is up. Episode 10.
Yes, thank
we
you
made
for joining us today. And if you can, do us a favor, share this podcast with somebody, subscribe to our channel. We cannot wait to be with you again soon.
And leave us a comment.
Yes.
See you next time.